Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On Social, the show that talks about professional live video on social media, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn. And it's also a show that helps you market that video to your targeted audience. And today we've got a really cool show about consistency. And one thing I could say is I have a consistent co host, Mr. Marty McPadden from podjam.tv. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Stephen. How are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to see you here. Also, we have making his return here. We have Mr. Jeffrey Fitzgerald from jeffandhighdef.tv. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, it's always awesome to be with you guys.
It's great to have you here because I think you're going to have a lot to say on the topic that we're going to be talking about today. Because a lot of people, we see going forward, everybody wants to start a brand, everybody wants to start a broadcast, everybody wants to start a podcast. But one of the biggest issues that we see and one of the biggest hangups that we see is consistency, whether it be in logo preparation, whether it be in shows. Marty, you and I have talked about, over the next couple weeks, there's going to be some days where we can't do it on a Thursday, but we've already made provision to do it on a different day so we can keep the show going to be consistent to help build that audience. I mean, these are types of things that you need to do.
Oh, absolutely. And just dovetailing on that topic of consistency and when you have to make a change, the key thing there is since people are normally expecting this show, well, take this show for example. Normally it's every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And so I know last week we made a change because of the 4th of July holiday. But as long as you get out in front quickly and communicate with your community via social or if you have email lists or whatever, and really just keep those lines of communication open, I think they'll appreciate that, and you can make that change and you get the show in, and you're still consistent. I think people who are engaging with you and engaging with the content want to be there and like the show, and they certainly will understand if you need to make a move. But the key is really communication up front and making sure everyone's aware, and if they can't show up live that particular day, where they can view it after the fact.
I think that's a huge thing with that. And Jeff, what about you as far as going consistent? Is this stuff that you preach to your clients?
Oh, you have to be consistent. I think the biggest problem in the social media space is that people get the courage up finally. They get in front of the camera, they start planning, and they do all the right things, and they put something out, and maybe they say, "Oh my gosh, I did it," but there's still a little bit of fear, and so they don't really do it again on the regular basis, and it gets lost because I love this term digital sediment. I mean, that's what we're looking at in our email, in our timelines. And if you're not there in a meaningful way on a regular basis at the same time, same place, same bat channel, I think you're doing yourself a disservice because people have to get to know you. And that's that whole lingo we hear all the time. I think it's overused sometimes. We do know there's a no like and trust factor, but people have to really begin to become aware of you before they're going to give you the time of day to really listen to what you have to say. So I think there's definite value in making a plan that whatever it looks like, whether the computer's not working the day before, whether the weather's causing trouble, get out there and do what you want to do and do it regularly. And I think that's where you're going to begin to see the followers go from, or viewers go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to one day you're going to have 50 or 100 of them. Years down the road you'll have a following.
I think even with myself, doing the outdoors brand that I have, building that from scratch. One of the things that I purposed and I try to do, and I've gotten some different people that are on my team to help. We try to curate content so that we have something that goes out every day on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the major players, if you will, in the game. Whether it's video, whether it's a post, whether it's a picture from a trail cam, we always have something that we try to go out because the biggest thing is, like you said, Jeff, if you're not giving your audience reason to follow you, they're not going to. And the same thing goes with video. If you're telling people, "Hey, I'm going to start this podcast or this broadcast and it's going to be about XYZ," and you do one show and then that's it, they don't hear from you for a month, they're not going to give you the time of day, you know, to do any of this. I mean, Marty, we've seen this over the years.
Yeah, and well, before I get into that, I want to reiterate. I think Jeff is absolutely 100% true when he talks about trust. That's ultimately what you're trying to build to your audience, right? And that's why consistency is so important. Is through consistency, people get to know you, know what you have to offer over time. You build that trust factor, and that to me, whether it's business, whether it's in your personal life, family, friends, or doing something like this, trust is everything. And if you don't have that, you really don't have anything. So that goes a long way, and that does take time to build. But getting back to what and remind me what you were saying. I just completely lost my train of thought. Ryan, what you're saying, Stephen, about you were making a point you
Oh
wanted
no,
me to comment on?
basically, we've seen this over the years. We've seen that people, say they're going to start something, they're going to do something, and then
Right.
they go and they get going with it, and then you don't see them for a month. They do one episode, maybe two, and then you don't see them after that. And then next thing you know, they do what we call pod fading, and
Right.
they just fall off the
It's
internet.
a good term.
And
Yeah,
that's a great point, because like the pod painting term, and we see this all the time, right? People get out of the gate, they're all excited, they're ready to go, and they do what, like 5 shows, and nobody's watching, which is frequently the case when you're just starting out. And then they said, "What's the point?" And they quit. They really quit before they really start getting going. And people need to see that you're committed to it. They also need to be, really sure about the subject matter you're covering. I would tend to, stick with what you know and what you're interested in. And what I would recommend is instead of going all over the place, a lot of people they think, well, I'm going to be a generalist. I'm just going to talk about whatever. If people don't know where you're coming from, you're probably not going to succeed. So pick something you're really interested in. You're probably going to do it longer, and you're going to be much more apt to be consistent with it. You know, but that is so key, because then you're building trust with your audience, and they know what to expect, and then they're going to listen more to you. And then as you build audience, that's how it starts. The hardest thing I think is the beginning, where for those first few months nobody's watching.
I
And you
know.
just got to stick with it. I mean, we have a buddy, Mark Rogers, who I would love to bring him on the show at some point. I mean, he's got a great story about consistency and sticking with it and seeing success from that, but it takes a while.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys is, and Jeff, I'm gonna direct this to you first. Going forward here, we see a lot of people, even us. We put out show cards every week, advertising the show, what the topic's going to be, what we're going to kind of cover in that. So, how important is it, do you feel, that people do that, announce it a few days beforehand to maybe build up an audience to watch that show? Is it necessary in your opinion? Is it something that needs to be done?
Promotion is the key to anything. I mean, especially in marketing and advertising, that's the whole reason why we do what we do, right? So, show cards are extremely effective. You're telling your audience, hey, there's something I know you're already interested in because you're a fan of the show. This is what we're going to be talking about. And you can even leverage it beyond that. You can even put out questions the day before, a week before, and ask people, whether it's a question of the week or say, this is something that I'm thinking about doing. What do you think about it? You're creating already a conversation, some comments, some engagement. We know Facebook rallies around those elements that raise your viewership, and then at the moment where you're live, you already have a pretty good idea on what you're going to be doing because you've already been thinking about it mentally. There's two parts to this whole thing about producing shows, and you guys know this well. There's the technical, and everybody gets wrapped up in the shiny microphones and the bright lights and things like that, but that's only setting the stage for the more important part of it, which is you and what you bring to the table. What is your story? What is your message? And I think that we fall short a lot of times in consistency because working the we're not planting the seeds and doing the hard work of really trying to produce something that is a real show. It's an intentional conversation. There's an intentional angle. Maybe there's a takeaway that you want to share with somebody. And a lot of times, Marty, you said it so well that people, they just want to go free form. And it's like, hey, we're going live, and I know a little bit about this or that, so we're just going to talk about it. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with that. There's safety in numbers. If you have other people on the show, you can share experiences, and they'll speak to something maybe you're weaker in. But if you really think about your promotions with show cards and what you do upstream, and it's not just the show cards. There's all kinds of things you can do to promote a show. Those things are going to pay off in big ways as you move down the road. And if you can stay faithful to it, this is a thing of faith, I think, for everybody. You've got to do it when it looks like nobody cares, until you find out that that first person starts sticking around a little bit more, and then it's the 10th and it'll go from there, and you'll find big success that way. But that's really the only way. There's no way around the mountain except through the mountain.
Marty, one of the things that I know you're a big proprietor of with this is with the promotion is a live stream schedule. How important is that really? I mean, you're coming from big media, ESPN. Is that something that you're just carrying over?
Well, I mean, I think if you can use big time networks as a guide, I mean, I think they know what they're doing, and there's a reason why you have set schedules, and it's about setting expectations for your audience. So you got to think about this: where everybody has only so many hours in a day, right? And this is something I always think about when when I'm producing a show for somebody or doing a show ourselves. Is why would anybody want to watch?
Yeah.
I'm asking someone to take 30 minutes out of their day to watch this content. Is it worthy of their 30 minutes? I mean, everyone's time is valuable. So, and second of all, give them a chance to be able to, if you're doing something live, give them a chance to be able to plan. They might really want to see it and really want to engage with your content. And if you can give them the opportunity to know every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be on live for 30 minutes and talking about, being social on video and what you can do in different topics like that, then they're gonna know, okay, I can count on this. I can set my day around. I really want to see it,
Hmm.
and I know that they're making the commitment, so I'm gonna make the commitment, and I know I'm gonna get something out of it. So it works both ways. And I've seen live streamers. I mean, Mark Rogers is a good example. When he started setting up a schedule where he talks about college football and he talks about different teams, different days, consistently every week. I think tonight he's doing the University of Miami. He does a lot of with them every Wednesday night. He has set of bloggers on, and you can count. And that community shows up every single week because they know
Hmm.
that if you're a fan of Miami football, you're going to talk Miami football for an hour every Wednesday. So that's key. And you'd be surprised you can really build an audience that way because again, you're setting that expectation,
Hmm.
and then people are willing to commit to that.
And Misty says in the chat that she says, if you prepare, you're showing that your audience that you actually care, and that really is key. And I think a lot of things that people don't necessarily do. Jeff, you talked about promotion. You thought, hey, this is something you have to do. It's not just getting on and doing a show and going live. You have to promote it. If you're not going to promote it, you can't expect your audience to promote it because you got to do it yourself first. And I think just like we did kind of in the pre-show, we are telling people to go like the Telestream Wirecast Facebook page, the LinkedIn page, the YouTube page. This is something that I think a lot of people don't do, and it's kind of 101-ish, right? These are your channels, these are your avenues where you're putting your content. That you're hopefully you have a website where you can direct them. I mean, we have the telestream.net website. Hopefully you have that house, if you will, where all your content's being laid to where you can direct people. You got to be able to direct people, right? I mean, Jeff,
Oh,
essentially.
absolutely, Steve. I mean, what people ultimately look for, especially if you're in traditional marketing, the verbiage is we're looking for a brand advocate, somebody who is so super powerly charged with what you're doing and what you're all about. They're not just a follower, but they're an active participant in sharing your message with the world. And that is a great place to be, but it takes a lot of work to get there because you have to, like you guys have already illustrated, you've got to be sharing something of value, something that resonates with the people you're speaking to. And then you're trying to enable them to know, hey, this is what I want you to do with that information and that content. And if you can do it successfully, you build a little army. And I mean, it's things, even, we talked a moment about show cards, but if you connect with people in their networks and you build partnerships with them, maybe you're trying to bring in their story into your conversation. Well, what happens if they've got 40,000 followers and they're a guest on your show? You know that they're going to be sharing it with their network. And so there's some very strategic things that you can think about just in terms of who you want to partner with. And I think those things are extremely valuable. But yeah, at the end of the day, you want a brand advocate. You want people who know how to share your content and feel very passionately about what they're sharing.
And Marty, there's something that you had in this where you talk about not just telling people about a YouTube channel, but kind of building that YouTube channel out in the form of graphics, headers, and types. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the other part of it. I couldn't agree more with Jeff. Brand advocate's a great way to describe it. You putting good content out there, and you're going to build people that want to engage with you. So that's a great point. And what you're talking about, Stephen, is the consistency in the look. we hear a lot about branding, right? And it actually is pretty important, because again, it may have a logo and a look. I know for this show, you have a on social logo. You have a certain look for the lower thirds. You have a certain look for the show card, and people know by just glancing at it. Oh, that's the On Social show. And when is it on? Oh, and here's the guest, and you change out the topic and all that. But that look, I mean, people are visual,
Yeah.
and they're going to respond to that. And again, if you're posting to a social feed that's going by a million miles an hour, you want to try to stick out and visually. And you notice a lot of the new social networks. I mean, one of the most popular ones is Instagram. That's completely built around visual,
Yeah.
right? So if you can be visual and be consistent where people identify your visual look with your show over time. I mean, why do you think when brands come out there with packaging, that's a whole science in itself. With advertising, it's very consistent. They come out with characters, and they're doing that because they're being consistent. They're consistent message, and to the point where I'm sure you've seen advertising where you have these characters and you identify the character with the product. That's what they're hoping for. Same thing when you have a show, your graphical elements. You want, clean. That they don't have to be fancy, but nice, clean and simple and consistent. So that people can identify, know that, oh, that's Stephen Haywood. He's going to be doing a show. I know that look.
Right, right. Jeff, how many times have you seen it though? Major companies, they create a show or they create a podcast, and they don't build out their channel. They don't add the graphics. There's no avatar on their Facebook page. There's no cover art. I mean, how many times? How many times have you seen? I mean, I've seen it a lot. But what would your advice be to them with that? And how important is it?
Well, it's obviously extremely important. I mean, when we talk about consistency, if you think about the fact that most of the people in the nightly news you feel like but yet they've never once talked to you directly, they're literally talking one way. It proves there is a connection point when you are able to bring the audience closer to you on a regular basis. And when you talk about what I think are fails, I think one of the biggest fails I see in corporate America, who people who are trying to communicate, is the annual meeting and convention. I did a lot of work over the years for a major cardiology association, launched a medical network channel for them years ago. And they were really good and intentional about their media, but there are other people that I see who will spend millions of dollars on all these other things, and then when it comes to their video, like at an event at a convention, they'll find, hey, get the two interns and give them a little iPhone, let them run around and do a show, interview people, and everybody's dark. You can't hear them. There's no microphone. They're in the shadows, and there's no, which I can't keep saying, the creative is the more important of this. There's no real methodology to the questions. It's, what is it like being here in Orlando? Well, that's not meaningful to somebody. And so I think that as a brand, you have to think this thing completely through, and I think it's getting a lot better. A lot of a lot of the businesses now really understand that social is an equal playing field in terms of what you need to invest in terms of production quality to see that same result. But yeah, by and large, the brands every single day make the mistake of thinking that whatever they've got that's already established is good enough, and then they'll just salt and pepper a little bit here and see if it works. And it's not going to work without intentional effort in that area.
No, that makes sense. I mean, and one of the things that I think a lot of people they get confused around is they try to get involved with too much too fast, right? They're not building out their
Yeah.
channels. They're not building out what they like. Marty, you mentioned Instagram, right? So if you're starting to build traction on there, you might want to spend a little bit more time on that and be consistent more on Instagram. And I'll use this example, right? So I stream the multiple destinations. Twitch.tv is a channel that I stream to only because I was grandfathered in back in the days of Justin TV. I had millions of viewers. Even on my channel, it's listed that there's millions of views on it. So I'm like, oh, well, okay, so I'm going to post the On Social show. I'm going to post all these other shows that I do. Yeah, nobody's interested in that kind of content. So, am I going to sit there and spend time building a community on twitch.tv for this type of content? No, because that's obviously not what that audience is looking. Now, if I take my arcade stuff over there and I start streaming that, I'm sure I can build an audience around that for that particular piece of content. So, I would say even, and I don't know if you guys agree, be consistent on the social media platforms that you're starting to build a community that's going to rally behind you. Otherwise, I mean, Marty, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, I would add to that, Stephen. I think I see this mistake all the time where people kind of try to use a templated format where they, and to a degree they're correct. You want to be everywhere all at once, and the more places you are, maybe the more traction you'll get, and that has some validity. But if you can't do it well, then it's almost a waste, right? So you're much better off, especially if you're a solo act where you're trying to do everything yourself, one man band. You're much better off starting slow, starting one step at a time. Build one show on one channel. If YouTube's your thing, do that. If Instagram's your thing, do that. Even you're talking about even sharing socially. If you're new to social media, start with one channel first. Build that out first. Get a sense of what's going on. Learn that and go from there. Because again, quality drives everything. And as you gain subscribers and as you gain attention and viewers, the demand for quality is going to increase.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what more successful people do. Not only, we talk about it in past shows, quality of presentation, production, and content. And again, you got to start somewhere. So obviously, when you first start, it's not going to be exactly where you want to end up, or
Isn't that the
you'll get
truth?
better over time. Yeah, exactly. You'll get better over time. But I agree. I mean, start with one first, and get that down, and build from there. You can always expand as you go. But don't try to bite off more than you can chew, as the old expression goes. I mean, it's far better. Just and be patient. I mean, so many people want it to happen now. They're looking for some gaming technique or something, the magic formula. It's not there. I mean, just put the work in, and that's why it's also important to enjoy what you're doing. Pick a subject that you really like. Don't do it because you think it's popular. You'll find an audience for it. If you're into like crocheting and you don't think there's an audience for it, believe me, there's an audience for it.
Yeah.
And if you're engaged and you're interested and you're enthusiastic about it, you will find your audience and you'll have plenty of people to watch over time. In the beginning, you won't have anybody, but over time, you're consistent. Again,
Yeah.
consistency, you'll build an audience. But yeah, do something you really love.
I think
That's number one.
I think that's the satisfaction, that I have right now. When I first started the outdoors, what I was doing with No Boundaries Outdoors, people are like, "Oh, you should take your knowledge of video and take it over to the outdoors and do that." And I'm like, these are redneck people that barely know how to use a phone. And it's nothing against them. I mean, they'll tell you that. They're like, they know how to hunt and fish, but they don't know nothing about technology. And you want me to take this over there? And what I've found is it's not those people that are grasping, it's the companies, because the companies don't have the expertise within the company that are looking for product photos. They're looking for great product reviews from a high-end professional capacity that they're getting on board. And like you said, Marty, I'm passionate about the outdoors besides the tech stuff. So it comes across real easy when I'm doing this. And it's something where now I'm taking pictures. There's not just like throwing something down and taking a picture. I'm staging the product or the picture. And companies are reusing them. They're using them for their own marketing ability. So what going back to the consistency here, I'm being consistent with the type of photographs, videos that I'm putting out to let people know I do high-end video and photography for outdoor products. So guess who they come looking for when something like that needs to be done? Because of the consistency, they know that it's always going out there. So
Yep.
guys, that's something you really need to do. And why consistency and getting it out there on the social platforms and not just throwing things out there. I think, Jeff, you alluded to that earlier. Don't just take the
Yeah.
time to present it well, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about brand consistency, the first thing everybody thinks about is a logo, your fonts, your colors, that nonverbal look and feel that you give someone when they see your symbolism. But you make a great point. Your brand really carries through everything you do, just in how you take your images and how you portray your brand in video or on print. All these things really matter. And it's even who you align yourself with, the companies that you want to work with, those kind of things. And so it's really a holistic approach to really, I personally don't like the word brand, second only to the word influencer. But it's just annoying because most influencers who are don't have to tell you they are. That's just my
Exactly.
opinion.
Oh,
But
no, I 1,000% agree with
okay.
that.
So we're all in agreement there. That's good. We'll issue the 3 judge decision here today. But the reality is that taking a holistic approach to what we're talking about, your brand is nothing more than the identity of which you want the world to know you by. And so if you look at it in the frame of how do I want people to perceive me and what I am offering, what I can do for the world, or how I want to share with the world, that will get you miles down the road. And I think one of the biggest mistakes everybody makes, it's just absolutely true. None of us get in front of a camera because we just hate being in front of people. There's a little bit of performer in all of us. We like a little bit of the accolades and sitting in front of the lights and being a little bit of a D-level celebrity. But the reality is it's not about us. So if you begin building your show based off of what you like and the things that kind of tweak you, you may have people follow and you may not. But if you really sit back and think, wow, I want to do a show about this particular car, what is it that really get people going about it? Maybe I'm going to talk about this or that. And you get online, you begin researching about the things that people are asking about in Google, the trends. Talk to people. You'll get your audience to tell you the content that you need to be looking at. And then all you have to do is to be that expert, that insert yourself into that conversation, and the rest is going to be history. But a lot of times we make the mistake of thinking it's about us, and it's not.
No, I 100% agree, and we're getting confirmation here in the chat room where Rebecca Cunningham's like, I agree, influencers is overused, and I think the consensus here is agreement with that. And that just means everybody's just got to work harder. Don't be. I think I saw a meme the other day. Uh, it was like fake it till you make it, and then underneath it says don't fake it till you make it. It says work hard and strive for perfection. Even though you won't make perfection, you can always strive. And I thought that was interesting because I like to think of myself, I know I'll never achieve perfection. We are not perfect beings, but I strive for perfection the best that I can within all the fibers of my being. I am going to give everything that I have to try to make it as successful as I possibly can in all that I do.
Yeah, yeah,
And there's nothing
yeah.
wrong
And
with that.
there's no, there's not at all, Steve. But the other part of that is that it's not work harder,
Work
because I
smarter.
think that's what I was going to say. I was about to say that the number 3 on my not like list is the word hustle, because it sounds like that by creating energy and momentum and motion in any direction, hey, you're going to get there. You're doing the right thing. Be intentional about your content. Be intentional about every part of your life, and your life is going to get better. That's just the way it works. People who don't pay attention are the ones that are always wondering what happened. So think about your show. Think about the message you want to create. Think about how you want to impact your world. And at that point, you're going to begin seeing light bulbs go off, not only with you, but people are going to come online going, hey, you know what? I like the vision you've got. Vision is everything. I want to be part of your vision. And you're going to find people to be part of your army and getting your word and your show and everything about it out there.
And I think that goes
Yeah, I
true.
mean,
Oh, go ahead, Marty. Go ahead.
can I just add one thing? And Jeff, you're absolutely 100% right. Pick something that you really like, because that's going to get you going and keep you consistent. But also, you want to also engage with the audience, like you were saying, Jeff. As far as it's not about, and I love how you said that. It's not about you; it's about your audience. And what's great about social and the social media world and how we're able to broadcast, we're able to see comments when we're live, and even when we're not, able to engage with our audience, not just broadcasting, but true two-way engagement. And they're going to tell you what you want to see. So if you're in a particular niche and you enjoy talking about that, there's always sub things, always topics within that your audience is going to say, oh, why don't we cover this? And you're going to start that conversation, and you're going to build trust. You're going to build fans, and they're going to go to bat for you. And they're going to feel, you want them to feel part of your community. And that's the big thing. That's the long-term vision that you really should have. And that takes time to build, but that's where everything is right there, and I like how Jeff just put
Yeah,
that. It was
absolutely.
perfect.
I think too, a lot of people get upset with it when they ask certain guests to come on their show and they don't really get it. And the underlying, the guest won't say, well, I don't want to come on the show because I don't like the quality of what you're putting out. They won't say that. They'll just say, well, I'm busy. But let's say you're trying to find that, and we're going to have to wrap with this, but you're trying to find that high-end guest. Again, going back to what you guys said about who you're surrounding yourself with, If I was doing some kind of production here, first, Telestream wouldn't have me do it if it was some kind of Mickey Mouse show. Secondly, these guys wouldn't be involved in it because they wouldn't want their name associated with that type of a production. They want something, especially Jeff. I mean, Jeff, you want something high end. Marty, you want something high end. You're not gonna put yourself out there on something like that because it's you don't want the association. Now, would you go on maybe a show and just kind of be a guest to appease that person? Yeah, but you wouldn't be one of those regular co-hosts. Am I right? I mean, that's something that people need to keep in mind when doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, there's a caveat to that, Steve. For me, I don't equate production quality for those that are not at a certain level yet with how they conduct their interview, how they do their
Right.
thinking about their material. To me, that's everything. It doesn't matter to me that that I'm blessed. I have a great studio. I'm chroma keying right now. None of that really matters if you're having a great conversation, and that's why we've seen such an explosion in the world of podcasting and something that was 15, 20 years ago. I remember in the early 2000s I was getting into podcasting and I kind of felt like it had come and gone. Wow, this year it is on the map. And so I'm actually in the process now of working on a podcast for fire rescue recruiting, and I'm realizing the same thing that the point I'm making here is that if your guest and the person who's conducting the interviews can really bring out a great story, that's what's important. And then if you can make sure you're in focus, we can hear you, you're the
Mhm.
right tone, all those things add on to it. But absolutely, you want to be part of not just a show, you want to be part of a movement. And so when you funnel in under someone's vision, it means everything.
And it all becomes being consistent, being prepared, in doing it. Like Jeff said, it's not about the whistles and bells, as Marty alluded to earlier. It's about being consistent and having your show together. I mean, every week we have show notes, and we stick with them, and we go with them, and we prepare to be ready to go. And that's the reason why, we're not just going to come on here and just shoot the breeze for a half hour. So, but guys, it's that time. We're going to have to wrap it up. It was a great discussion. I hope you guys got some valuable tips out of it for those that are watching. Everybody, you want to check out Jeff, go to jeffinhighdef.tv. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I always love being part of On Social. You guys are rock stars. And I want to give a real quick shout out to one of my buds in the fire department, Dave Fierstein, who just texted me on Facebook Messenger saying, should I rename my product from the Fierstein brand to the Fierstein Influencer? I say, keep what you got because you're doing great. You're original. You're just rocking it, Dave. You keep doing it, and I'll be with you here in the next week, or we're going to do some great stuff live together.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dave, for tuning in as well. We really appreciate you watching. Also, we want to thank Mr. Marty McPadden from podjam.tv. Thank you, sir, as always.
Thank you, Steven. Pleasure to be here as always.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. You guys can find out more about any of us. Like you said, you can look up Jeff in High Def on all the major social networks. Marty McPadden all over social media. Me, I'm known as the Tech Buzz everywhere, so you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. But make sure you go over to the Telestream Wirecast Facebook page, like it, so that way you know every time we're going to go live what we're going to talk about. And you can take that and share it out to all your community so that you can better assist them in live video production on social media. Also, go like our LinkedIn page, the Telestream page. And over on YouTube, we have Telestream Tube, or it's Wirecast Tube. There's two channels, okay? So for Wirecast stuff, it's Wirecast Tube. I think in Telestream, it's Telestream Tube. So go check that out. Go subscribe to it. We'd really appreciate it. And guys, we will be back next week with number 9. Yeah, we're getting close to the double digits here of On Social. And we really appreciate everybody coming out. And we'll see you next time here